Welcome back to another edition of Special Situations Investing with Greg. This week I will be talking about the Spirit JetBlue tender offer. Check it out. Hey everyone, welcome back to another edition of my YouTube channel on Special Situations Investing and my personal investing practice. As a quick disclaimer, this video is for educational purposes only. Any companies that I mention in this presentation are discussed solely for illustrative purposes. Discussing such companies and the specifics about them is to help educate me and educate you about certain special situations. It is not a solicitation to purchase them. I recommend that you conduct your own research and identify why you might want to own the company yourself prior to your committing of any funds. I also recommend that you seek the services of a financial advisor that has considered your personal situation as your fiduciary. And then finally, may your education here grow your knowledge, improve your personal investing performance, and give you the confidence to take control of your future. Thanks a bunch for watching. Now on to the video. So in a recent report, JetBlue offered to purchase Spirit Airlines with a tender offer, and this has been kind of a dramatic little story. The purchase is an offer, or it's a tender offer, at the same time that Spirit Airlines was in the middle of going through the regulatory requirements in order to participate in a Frontier merger. This offer is significantly higher than Spirit's current rate or current share price, and we're talking about $30 per share plus an additional $1.50 per share for the breakup prepayment fee, basically to help out with that breakup that's already been in the works with Frontier. We're talking in this percentage, we're talking over 41% premium of the current share price of about $22.28 a share. So this is really interesting to me, and it's kind of like reading the tabloids a little bit. You can go in there and you can see how Spirit Airlines is responding to this, and they actually have the most interesting stuff to me, and so I'm going to share with you their thoughts. Their management team is recommending that people do not tender shares for the JetBlue transaction, and these are the reasons why. The first reason is that JetBlue, as a high-cost carrier, is not a good merger candidate with a low-cost carrier, or in Spirit Airlines' case, an ultra-low-cost carrier. And basically, they see this as JetBlue trying to go in and buy Spirit Airlines in order to knock out competitors in the northeastern areas where they have. And one of their most profitable, one of their biggest flights is like from the Northeast down to Florida, so basically Boston down to Florida or New York down to Florida. And JetBlue, if that's like one of their main bread and butter routes that they are trying to get rid of, and if they can cut down their ultra low cost carrier, or ULCC prices, they want to do that as much as possible. The second claim by Spirit is that JetBlue doesn't recognize the regulatory risk on this, and JetBlue is in the middle of another, basically a little bit of work between them and American Airlines right now that they call the Northeastern Alliance, or NEA. This Northeast Alliance is what JetBlue is using in order to get better fares or better prices. The way Spirit sees it is they're trying to make it so that they have almost a monopoly in some of the locations, and even point out that the Department of Justice is suing them over this in order to confirm that it's not anti-competitive. Or at least that's what they claim. That's what Spirit claims. The third thing is that this is an attempt to break up the merger between Spirit Airlines and Frontier, because it would make it so that JetBlue doesn't have to compete with a strengthened Spirit/Frontier business in the Northeast. They give other reasons, and if you want to read through their entire document, I'll make sure that I get a PDF or I'll get a little link to their presentation on this so you can take a look at it. With that in mind, I thought it would be good to share with you. I'm not participating in this one, and I wanted to share with you some of my thoughts why. I have looked at airlines over the years, and I just don't find them to be the type of business that I really find as attractive. Now, I do participate in tender offers for businesses that have a similar economic structure, like oil businesses and stuff like that, but I just don't see it as much with this, and I'm not an expert with the regulatory risk thing part of it, and so I'm kind of shying away from this one because I'm concerned about those things. However, as I was doing this research for the Spirit Airlines, I did some just background research, and Warren Buffett, one of the people that I like to read and understand businesses from his perspective, he says, or he explained once that airlines are very competitive and highly regulated, and it's a very capital and labor intensive business, and probably one of the hardest businesses in the world to be in. And when he said that, I thought that it would be kind of fun to kind of dig through what kind of capital and labor costs an airline would have. So let's start off with what the cost of an actual jet is. So if you look at a Boeing 700 series aircraft, you're looking at about $100 million per airframe. And $100 million per airframe that then requires you to have the labor in order to operate that airplane. You have to have a pilot, you have to have a co-pilot, you have to have stewards or stewardesses, you have to have the people that would be running the management behind making sure that everybody gets to their location. So you have to have a management team that makes sure that they're there. They don't pay for it, but they do have other people that are also required in order to operate that aircraft, and they pay fees to the airports or the government agencies that regulate it. So they have to pay a fee in order to pay for the air traffic controllers. So they pay some sort of tax that goes into that. They have to pay a fee in order to use the tarmac at certain airports. They have to pay a fee in order to have like a gate. So you have a landing fee, you have a gate fee, you have a ground handling fee. You have all of these different fees that they would be required to have. They're going to be required to have insurance. They're going to have the costs of the flight itself. So the costs of that bag of nuts or the soda that you get on an airline. The cost of the gas in order to fly that airplane from one place to another. And gas is one of those things that really stood out to me when I was doing my research. IATA is one of the organizations that tracks a lot of the data that's associated with airlines, and IATA.org has lots of statistical data on this industry. And one of the things that I found as I was doing my research is that on average, the fuel itself costs about 20% of an aircraft's operating costs in order to fly it from one location to another. So almost 20% of a 3-hour flight is coming from that fuel that was required in order to get that airplane into the air and fly it from one location to another. And recently, with all of the sanctions that have been occurring against Russia, one of the larger oil producers in the world and exporters in the world, has caused a significant spike in the international cost of fuel, has caused a spike in the cost of fuel throughout the world. And it's not just in your automobile fuel, it's also in the fuel for aircraft. This is even higher for aircraft. And if you've tried to buy a flight recently, you probably noticed how significantly more expensive it was, especially if you flew last year during the pandemic and were flying when everything was really low and they were trying to attract as many customers as possible. All that being said, if you're talking about 20% of your costs now doubling, which is what I saw on the IATA website, that their price for jet fuel for aircraft has doubled over the past year, you're talking about a significant cost increase for the airline industry. Futures contracts, which is one of the ways that airlines use in order to mitigate this cost, are not something that that they're going to continue to have that benefit over time unless something changes. And at the current rate that Russia continues to attack Ukraine, I don't see that happening immediately overnight. That being said, it comes down to that, and then it comes down to one other thing. It comes down to the number of people or passengers they can get onto each aircraft, or their load factor. So if you have your load factor, and you have the number of aircraft that you're buying, that you're flying, if they can get to about 65%, historically that is their break even. So they're not going to make money, but they at least won't lose money at that 65%. During the pandemic, they dropped below that. It was significantly low on the load factor, and anybody that flew during certain times of the pandemic would have agreed that their load factor was very, very low. In fact, I've seen some towns, even my hometown, has gotten to a point where they don't even have flights that come out of them anymore because there was so low of a demand that was going on there that people just weren't flying enough, and it was no longer profitable for the airline. IATA back in 2021 did indicate that they expect load factor to come back to about 75%. So not back to the 80% that convinced Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger to buy into the airlines back in 2017, but we're getting closer to that profitability need that they have. Those are the capital costs. Those are the labor costs that are involved. And then you think about it, if you have that many people that are flying on the aircraft each day or each year, we're talking about millions and millions of people, and even if just 1 or 2% of them have issues, this can cause a significant cost to the airline and a significant amount of lowering of your profits. With all that being said, in my opinion, when I'm looking at this particular business, it's just not the type of business that I feel like I want to put my hard-earned money into or participate in it in any form or fashion. Somebody will probably make money on this, and this is the reason why. As we come out of the recession, that's when we're basically talking about airlines that are probably at their lowest prices at this moment, and the prices should rise significantly as they come out of the post-pandemic closures, or if they come out of any type of recession. But for me, the risk is that the company may have to go into bankruptcy in order to get out of a recession. And that's my point. I'm not interested in this business because I know how cyclical it is. It seems like there's a significant amount of business that just doesn't look like I would want to be interested in it, but it is a fascinating read. I highly recommend that if you want to take a look at this, you do some reading of your own, and at the very least, it is entertaining to read through Spirit Airlines' disclosures on this. So thanks a bunch for watching. We will catch you next week.